Hey y'all, so today we got a new video for you, based on a game that I played a little bit earlier today, where my opponent, allowed me to do some pretty funny tactics, and, we're gonna get into it. So my opponent starts off the game with a move that hasn't been featured much on this channel, which is the move C4, the English opening, and this is one that, I actually have very little experience with just because of how many people play this. Like, I know a little bit. I know that e5 is the best move, and then there's like some lines like this where you play e6, but all in all, I don't really know this opening like at all. And looking at the engine, there's many lines. There's knight c6, d5, bishop b4, lots of different lines here, lots of different ways that I could probably learn this, but I just don't really know this opening very well. So don't mind if my theory is just a little bit so-so with this. So I play e6, which is kind of what I know what to do here. So here I go develop my knight, all very simple stuff. Here I develop my bishop, which I thought was natural. Just targeting this pawn. It's not the best move. Best move is a little tricky. It's d5 now, although I've already played d6. It's a little bit of a strange move. Either way, bishop comes to e6, targeting the pawn, and my opponent defends it. And actually, I'm already better. I'm already better due to the move knight b4 here. Knight b4 actually just forces my opponent to be passive. Like knight b4, I'm threatening this, right? So my opponent has to do something. Either my opponent goes back to g1, which would be horrendous, or my opponent can go g3, and then I'm going to start opening up the center with moves like d5, and I'm just going to plow through here like this. Bishop d5 is very nice. Takes, probably queen takes, right? Yeah, because you're attacking the rook, and this position is just over. You just win this pawn, the game is over. And that's why knight b4 would be a good move, but I miss it, and I simply played a very reasonable move. I played g6, very reasonable move. I'm trying to fin kettle my bishop. I don't like where my bishop is placed, obviously staring into the back of my pawns, and I think that my bishop would be better placed on g7, aiming down towards this undeveloped rook and supporting the d4 square, so then he can't play d4 himself. He plays bishop g2, I go bishop g7, and my opponent goes d4. And I take, of course, because it's a very natural thing to do. You're obviously going to take here. If my opponent, when my opponent recaptures, I'm going to put more pressure on it with my newly developed bishop. I've got my knight here. Everything looks very good. And my D here was to play d5 pretty quickly, simply stopping the fork and keeping everything together. d5 makes a lot of sense. Bishop f5 is slightly better, I guess. I don't really know, but d5 just, to me, makes a lot of sense because it makes the pawn kind of a weakness now. My opponent comes here with the knight, targeting my bishop and my pawn. I bring this knight back to defend my pawn because I don't want to lose a pawn. Although I do get lots of counterplay on that pawn afterwards. I don't want to have anything weird happen. So my opponent ends up locking the center with the move c5. And that's a bad move. Knight e7 is also bad. Technically, bishop g4, f3, bishop e6, takes is the best way to play. Okay, and if my opponent captures here, I actually just do fine, because after takes, I've blocked his light squared bishop, and I'm just considerably better. That's kind of what you need to do. It's a little hard to do. I didn't really see it. Either way, I play knight back to e7. Mistake. My opponent goes c5. Another big mistake, actually. c5 just kind of gives me everything that I've ever wanted, because now he's not targeting my pawn anymore. I'm going to be able to have moves like c6 in the future to solidify my pawn, and then actually his pawn is the only weakness, and I'm just going to have a very easy game. So I have this very nice move. I play queen d7. It's a slight inaccuracy, but the idea is that I know knight is probably going to capture, and I'd like to probably play this move in some lines. So the purpose of this move was multi-purpose, basically saying that if my opponent wants to capture my bishop, he can, but then I'm going to capture with a check, and I think my queen is better placed there than on d8. And secondly, if the knight ever moves, then I'm just going to get access to the h3 square, and I'm going to be able to trade light square bishops. My opponent captures. I capture back with the queen, of course. My opponent blocks with the queen. Very reasonable move, and here I kind of make a rash decision. I should have played c6. I should have played c6 to solidify this, and I'm just very, very much better. Instead, I play a little quickly. I trade the queens. I mean, it makes sense. I thought king takes was a better move here. They're actually both equal, knight takes and king takes. My opponent captures with the knight. I thought king takes would be slightly better because then, I mean, his king is more active. It's an endgame, and he's going to be able to bring his rooks faster. Whatever. He goes knight back. I go c6, solidify. My opponent castles. I castle short. I could have castled long, but I didn't see the reason, and I thought that castling short made a little more sense. Maybe I could have castled long. Either way, my opponent comes here. I bring my knight up with tempo. If I could trade off his dark sword bishop, I'd be very, very happy, because then he gets another weakness here. I'm able to target that weakness very easily. I have the only dark sword bishop. Everything should be just going better for black, and I should just be easily winning. My opponent comes here, and I make a big mistake. This position is completely winning for black. Completely winning. This is actually very much over at this point. If I just find a couple more accurate moves, the very simple rook fe8 actually just wins the game. Like rook fe8, he defends his knight because he doesn't want to lose his pawn. Then I have this move knight h5, targeting the bishop, and I mean, this is just rough. Bishop d6, I mean bishop d3, bishop d6 is a line here, but I mean, that's disgusting. Why? I'm just gonna win the pawn at the very least, and there's really nothing my opponent can do about it. So I thought that that position would be pretty good, but then I decided to reroute my knight, and the reason behind this move was, one, I'm attacking the pawn. It's very important. I'm attacking the pawn. I didn't think that my knight was good on h5, in all honesty. I thought that I could be in some trouble after like some forking ideas, so I didn't want to allow that. And I just went back to e7, but this allows bishop h3, which I missed. Knight e7 also has some idea of like going here knight f8. If I can draw arrows, going here knight f8, which could be nice, but I wasn't unable to play that, and my opponent comes here quickly. I have to play rook fe8, developing. My opponent captures, I have to recapture. And this position already, it's equal, but position is probably slightly better for black in all honesty, just because of this weakness, but I do not like these doubled pawns. These doubled pawns are just a major weakness. If this pawn can magically move back here, then black would be considerably better, and I would just have a massive advantage, but whatever. Rook fe1. And this is the first tactic of the game. Rook fe1 blunders something very, very nice. The reason why rook fe1 is a blunder is because you might be seeing, and you might have been thinking for a while, that this bishop x-rays this rook, and then this pawn is a massive liability for my knight. And you're right. You're right. That's all true. But if I were to go here, 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 and rook takes the rook, a rook takes my bishop, I'd be down 2 pieces for a rook. But in this case, because this rook protects the rook is actually overloaded, and that's why knight c5 works in this case. Very nice. I can show you. Like after here, bishop a1, rook e2. I'm winning because the knight is undefended. So if you were just to move the knight or play bishop e3 or something, then this tactic would never work, and I'd be fine. Like just showing, like here, this is already like a lost position for black, simply because 2 pieces are much better than my inactive rook. Either way, this all happens. My opponent goes bishop e3 here, not wanting to give me everything, and I put my knight in the center, which I thought was very reasonable. Knight e4. Technically, knight e6 is better. Tough to say why, but I guess knight e6 is to, I don't even know, maybe it's to reroute over here, or maybe it's to come down here and like go up here or something. I don't know. I don't really see a good reroute for the knight on e6, so that's kind of why I played knight e4. Thought it was more active. he can kick me out, but then I have like some interesting moves. I have like, I don't know, I have something like I can probably go back to d6. I think my knight is better there, and now his bishop's hanging. I thought that was interesting. My opponent eventually plays the move knight f4. I'm up a pawn, so I have a -1 advantage. Pretty nice. I go knight back to d6, which is one of my ideas. I was trying to come here and start pressuring these squares over here. I want to get my knight there. I thought my knight would be pretty good there. This knight doesn't really have many prospects except for this square, which he does go to. He does go there. It's not the best way. He needs to play a4 and control my knight. And then I can probably start sweating a little bit. I probably have to play rook e4, double up, and my opponent might get some compensation. Don't want that, don't like it. My opponent misses it though. Here, I go rook e4, which I thought was reasonable. I could have gone knight b5. I could have gone knight b5 and tried to attack all this. I just didn't really see the point here. Like, I didn't really see the idea. Because at the very least, knight takes here. I mean, this position seems pretty reasonable, but I guess it makes sense because I'm going to be able to double my rooks up on the e file, and I should be better. But either way, rook e4 first. My opponent comes here, and now this allows the other sacrifice of the game. It allows the move rook e3, and this one gets a brilliant move. Knight takes to not get a brilliant move, but this one gets a brilliant move. First brilliant move that's actually been awarded to me by chess.com in a while. I've had a lot of nice tactics where I sacrifice pieces and they work, but the chess.com's been giving me like great moves or good moves or misses for some reason because I missed something better, but whatever. Rook e3, and my opponent is busted. Now I'm up a bishop, and after recaptures, I take on d4. I'm pinning this rook to the king, but also I'm attacking this rook. Very nice. My opponent comes back and guards his other rook. And if I take right now, I didn't think I would be doing very good. I feel like taking right now is not as much as I could get from the position. I didn't like that. So what I went for instead was the best move. I played f4. f4, very nice. Clearance sacrifice. The idea is that I want to put my knight on f5. And after knight takes here, knight g2, I could take on e3, but I thought rook e8 here is adding more pressure to the rook. Probably king f2, and now I could probably capture and like steamroll everything. Like probably, I don't even know, like f5 maybe, for example. And this position is just monumentally worse for white. I'm only up one pawn, but the pressure is extreme. However, my opponent doesn't care about that and instead rathers to take with the pawn for some reason. So now knight f5, my opponent doesn't have knight g2, and my opponent plays a move that makes sense, but it's a Hail Mary. He plays knight f6 check, allows bishop f6. Of course, I have to play that move. I could technically play bishop king g7 and like knight h5 here, knight g3. I guess I could have gone for this, but I thought that this was easily winning, and I'd rather be up 2 pieces for a rook than beat up an exchange. So I went for this instead. My opponent gave me a check. I trade the rooks. I go king up, of course, it's forced. Opponent comes here. I bring up my pawn here. I give this check. I bring up my pawn, saving everything. Comes here. I can't really defend that pawn without the move c5, but I didn't think c5 was that good because I didn't like doing this. I don't know really why I didn't. I guess I didn't like that the a7 pawn was bad, but then c4, and this position is pretty obviously winning. I mean, I got 2 passers. This should be an easy win. Actually, well, in that position, I guess I'm attacking the rook, so after this move, I would just take the rook. But you know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about. Either way. I gave a check. He comes here. I went here, and my idea was basically, okay, I'm giving you this pawn, but what I'm going to get in return, I'm going to get this pawn in return. And I thought that was a very interesting idea. He obliges. He comes here. I throw in a little Zwischenzug. I kind of have to. I go this here, and then this, very important move. I thought that my bishop could be kind of loose on this square, so I decided to put it on a square that is defended by the pawn. We get some little, as Hikaru would say, a wooden shield, which is very nice. He comes here. I push my pawn one square up, and now it's defended. My opponent plays a3. I come here. He can't really defend his pawn. He comes here anyway. I go to a1, I believe, and now I'm targeting this pawn instead. Takes, and this position is pretty easily winning. There's a little couple more tricks. My opponent brings his kings up. I come here. I try to maneuver my way to win that pawn. He defends it. I come back. I come here, and now I'm maneuvering my way to start pushing my pawn here. I give this check. I really can't allow that pawn to get to h3 because then I'd probably not be winning with my king stuck on this area. He's kind of forced to go here. I come here, and now the pawn actually has a very nice path up to promotion. Here, I push. Here, I come here, which is very nice. Defending this square and also continuing to defend this pawn. A little important note. And my opponent comes here. I thought the best move was king g8. I'm right. The idea is basically that I could play king h8, but then this pawn hangs. I don't really want to get into that. Instead, I go king g8, check here. And just saying, if I went like king f8, pretty funny move, just get mated, which would suck, but king g8, check here, and like if my opponent were to play rook f8, which I thought he would play, I was just gonna go up. He can't actually do anything. King f8, he can come back, but then just knight d3, I win the bit, I win the rook, I win the game. Everything is pretty easily winning here. I just make queen. Either way, my opponent didn't do that. He went king d6. I push my pawn. King here. I queen. Takes. And there's one other thing I have to be careful of. I have to be careful of getting into an endgame where just knight versus king. Knight and couple pawns versus king, because my bishop would have to sacrifice. And then that could be a little drawish, but instead I just defend this promotion square, bring my knight back, I take this pawn, and now there's a red carpet up for this pawn, and my opponent can basically resign here. He plays a couple more moves, but I win a couple more pawns. I put my bishop on f8 because I would like to defend this promotion square, and my opponent just resigns into a very, very nice win for me in the English, which is an opening that I never see, I never play, I hate it. But yeah, that was this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys found this instructive, entertaining, all of the above. Please, if you enjoyed it, please remember to like, subscribe, all the normal things that YouTubers tell you to do. Yeah, good evening and good night.